This is Elia Yasharala, your Black family advocate, coming back with episode 2 of the Through the Fire podcast. And this is the second day in a row that I'm recording. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this daily. I'm going to be honest. I don't think daily is the likelihood for me. So I'll figure it out. And as I figure it out, I'll get a schedule going and get that set up. I mean, because really I have the option of recording this now and uploading it next week and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to be aggressive, like starting out with this whole YouTube thing. I've been chomping at the bit to do this for a very long time, like literally since 2012. That was 12 years ago. I've been desiring to do this. And to be honest, I didn't even fully know what podcasting was back in 2012. I'm not an expert today, but I just have the desire to get things going. So I just want to be aggressive starting out. And maybe I am, biting off more than I can chew, because my plan is to do like lessons, like biblical lessons. My plan is also to continue to do prayers, because I started the podcast off with prayers. And then I want to have these discussion pieces like I'm doing right now. I'm writing a book. I'm almost finished with the book. I'm probably like about a good 6 pages away from finishing the book, and I'm excited about getting that pushed out. And I ultimately want to evolve this into doing interviews and so on, and also commentary on things that are happening in social media, popular things that are happening, responding to comments that folks are making. People like Dr. Umar Johnson, Cynthia G, anybody who's speaking on the Black family, because the whole point of this podcast is to address all things related to the Black family. Why am I in this space? I addressed this yesterday, but it doesn't hurt to mention it again. But I'm in this space because I feel like the conversation between Black men and Black women have become so ugly, or at least it appears to have become so ugly when you judge it by social media and public comments and so on and so forth. And I know that is, those are real conversations. That's really where people's heads and hearts are. And so I just want to do whatever I can to try to just add some positivity in a place that's very dark and negative, But this episode, we're coming back with part 2. I didn't realize this would be a part 2. I kind of mentioned it in the first podcast that I may have to come back to this conversation. The first episode was called the top 5 reasons why Black people need to stop dating. So this is a follow up on that, because I'm adding 5 additional reasons as to why Black people need to stop dating. And then I want to address the alternative. I won't do that in this podcast, but maybe the next one, or I'll kick it up the road a little bit. But at some point, I want to address the alternative. If we're going to stop dating, then what are we going to do instead? All right. But let's get into the meat and potatoes as to why we are here today. So the first reason I would give, for today's top 5 is, just as a people, as an individual, you need time to emotionally detox. And what do I mean by that? For most of us, Black people, right? Most of us, we grow up in an environment that is emotionally intense, right? For most of us, we grow up in families that are, for lack of a better way of expressing it, that are just filled with drama, And when we become adults, young adults, we need to take a period just to emotionally detox, to kind of like, to get our vagus nerve to calm a bit, to bring ourselves to a state of calmness, to get our emotions under control, right? To get an emotional handle on ourselves. We need to be able to find within ourselves that place of peace and calm. The reason why we need to do that, because we need to learn to manage our emotions. So we need to know and become very familiar with what our calm state is. A lot of us don't even know what our calm state is. What am I like when I'm calm? What is my feelings like, my emotions like when I am at a state of calmness, right? That's crucial for managing your emotions, because your emotions are going to be constantly not necessarily under attack, but they're going to go up and down as the more you communicate with people, the more you're in contact with people, the more you are the more you are in deep and intense relationships, your emotions are going to constantly be, going up and down. So you need to understand what your state of calm is, so you can always get back to it. You can pull your emotions back under control when you feel like things are getting out of control. And that's crucial, because I'm gonna tell you why. I saw a video on Instagram a couple of days ago, and I had been avoiding that video because I knew how that video would impact me if I watched it, right? And it was a video of a young man who shot and killed a young lady in a parking lot, and he kind of chased her around in the parking lot before he shot and killed her. And I knew that would bother me deeply. Like, stuff like that sticks to me. I'm very empathic. Like, that stays with me. And it just bothered me so much that he did that. I put a comment on that post, and one of the comments that came back to me was a young lady saying that, I don't know if she was a young lady, honestly speaking, but she commented and said that these women be playing games with these boys' emotions because they know they can play them. That was her comment, right? And because she was kind of, I guess, like, debating what I was saying, because my comment was more or less about, our young men having a need to get a hold of themselves emotionally and so on, And she was like, no, these young girls are playing games with their emotions because they know they can play them, But she's not wrong. She's not wrong. Now, of course, I'm not sure what this young lady did, but it shouldn't have cost her life, and that's the thing that we have to understand. These emotional ups and downs that we go through, it's not worth murdering someone. It's not worth the loss of life. It's not worth you just getting driven to that emotional edge where you cannot control yourself, right? And we're not taught to manage our emotions. Many of us are not given that kind of guidance, to manage our emotions. So what happens is, when things get emotionally out of control, we just go and jump out the window. We don't really know how to, reel ourselves in and get back to our state of calmness. So that's one of the reasons why we need to stop dating, because dating is complex. It's very complex. I don't know their story, the young man who shot the young lady. I don't know their story. Maybe she cheated. Maybe they were going through, a nasty breakup. Maybe the issue was, child support or whatever it is. But those things are very emotionally intense, and you have to be emotionally prepared to navigate that world, because the quote unquote dating world is messy, is sloppy, is careless, is indifferent to how you feel. And some people out there are just full on straight out emotional savages. Like, they just don't care how anyone feels. They do what they want to do in total disrespect and total disregard to how it may emotionally inconvenience someone else. So we have to be we have to be strong enough to navigate those things emotionally. We cannot get so hurt and so depressed or so beat up on that we think that the only solution to the situation that I'm in currently is to take someone's life. So that's my first reason, is that we need a chance to emotionally detox. We also need to get away from, take time to get away from the emotional manipulation, right, that we may have experienced at the hands of someone else, someone who emotionally manipulated us, maybe multiple people, right? And then what happens is you end up transferring that energy to someone who doesn't deserve it. You may have had someone who you invested a lot of emotions in, and the only thing they did was manipulate you and abuse you and treated you unkindly. And so now you taking that, you transferring that to someone else, someone who doesn't deserve it. And this is how you block your blessings moving forward, because you have created a wall, or you created a war chest, for people that don't deserve that kind of energy. Right. Another reason why we need to emotionally detox and emotionally center ourselves. Right. So that's my first reason on this one. Black people need to stop dating because we need to take time to emotionally detox. The second reason for today is, we need to spiritually detox. We need to spiritually detox. When you spend intense time with people, especially people who you are engaging with intimately, you are connecting with them spiritually, whether you understand that or not. right? There's spiritual ideas, there's spiritual energy, is being transferred to you and yours to them, and when you're dating on a regular basis, going from partner to partner to partner to partner, right? You're taking that stuff with you. Some people are inserting in you their non-belief, right? Some people are inserting in you their odd and strange beliefs, right? Some people are literally inserting in you witchcraft, right? And all types of things that are not healthy to you, and things that add to your power and build you up spiritually, so we need to take time to spiritually detox from the dating world, the dating scene. The dating scene is it's a messy and sloppy place where spirituality is concerned, right? It's messy and sloppy where emotion is concerned. It's definitely messy and sloppy where spirituality is concerned. In the dating world, folks will date people who are of different backgrounds, right? And the Bible warns against being unevenly yoked, right? Now, we understand the yoking process to be a deeper relationship, more of a marriage, than it is of, a dating situation. But nevertheless, the term still applies when you're dealing with someone whose spirituality is moving in one direction and is opposite of yours. This is going to impact you spiritually. So spiritually detox, spend time in prayer and in meditation and in growth, reading and studying the scriptures, not just reading it, but studying the scriptures, learning what the commandments are and how you can dutifully keep them. Keeping the commandments have a whole bunch of benefits to it. Like, for example, the rest, I was talking about this with my son yesterday. That when you keep the commandments properly, when you keep the Sabbath properly, not only are you resting physically, you're also giving your body a rest from all the fried food and all the, things that you would eat during the week, because there's no cooking on the Sabbath, right? So you have to find other things to eat. Excuse me. You have to find other things to eat. So if you're prepared, if you prepare correctly, excuse me, I don't know why this happened. I gotta take this out. So if you're prepared correctly for the Sabbath, then you're probably going to eat healthier things like salads, probably going to have smoothies that are set aside, juicings and stuff like that. And, you give your body a nice internal detox too. But all of this is part of your spirituality. So it's important to take time to spiritually detox, as well, and spend that time getting closer to the Most High and learning who you are and growing spiritually. Right. And again, I mentioned this one yesterday, is to sexually detox. You need time to sexually detox, especially if you're a female. And that's really because of the anatomy of the body. But for a male too, like don't get it twisted. It's important for a male too. But that's really because of the anatomy of the bodies. Like females are inserted in, and ejaculated into, right? And because of that, all of that energy that's being, given to you from men that are not appropriate for you, it has, an effect on your body, and you need time. It has effect on your mind as well. And you need time to detox from that. You need time to detox from the touch, from the feeling, from, just all of that kind of energy. A period of celibacy is very beneficial when it comes to sexual detoxing. I think I mentioned this yesterday. I believe in like spirit bonding, where two individuals can come together, and because they had sexual contact with one another, there's a bond that exists between them that's different from the bond you have with people who you have not had sexual contact with. This is the reason why a man can bring his wife around a woman who he's had sexual contact with, and his wife can get a sense that something is going on between him and her. Right. She can pick up that sense. A male can do that too. Right. A husband can do that with his wife too. You can get a sense of it. Right. And the reason why is because there is a bond that exists between, a man and a woman who've slept together. Right. And And that bond, you know, you need time to detox and break and separate yourself from that kind of bonding with people who were, you know, inappropriate with you, you know, sexually inappropriate with you. I call it sexually inappropriate, you know, because if it's folks that, if it's not your husband, it's not your wife, you shouldn't be having sex with that person, you know. And this is an interesting thing about my own personal story. Before my wife and I got together, you know, I had a sexual encounter with a young lady who was a friend, and she had been a friend for like about a good 10 years. And when I had sex with her time, I actually felt guilty, you know, because I had been working on myself so much spiritually and growing spiritually. And when I had sex with her, I felt terrible. I felt guilty. So I went into a period of celibacy, and I was celibate for like about a good, you know, 12 months before my wife and I started, you know, talking and stuff. And I said to myself at that time, you know, that like just before I went celibate, I was like, the next woman that I have sex with will be my wife, because I understood at that point that having sex with someone who is not your spouse, someone who is not that there's no commitment to, there's no God in it, there's no love in it, like all of that is inappropriate. You're only doing it to satisfy your body, you know. And I was like, I would never do that again, you know. So sometimes you need that period of celibacy to break those bonds, right, and to build yourself up and just kind of refresh yourself, you know. So that would be my third reason. All right. So the first reason was to emotionally detox. The second reason was to spiritually detox. The third reason is to sexually detox. Right. So the fourth reason today is you need to take some time to learn who you are developmentally, you know. And what do I mean by that? Right. You need to discover things about yourself. Right. You need to ask yourself, what trauma have you been exposed to as a child, or even as an adult? What trauma have you been exposed to? Were you molested as a child? You know, did your parents separate? Was it a brutal separation? Did you witness, you know, all types of arguing and fighting and stuff like that? What kind of home did you grow up in? Was it boring every day? You know, was it adventurous every day, but in a bad way because there was a lot going on? You need to ask yourself those questions, like, and you need to learn those things about yourself. What triggers you? You know, what triggers you? And when you get triggered, how do you respond? How do you respond to being triggered? Are you a yeller, screamer? Are you a fighter? Do you withdraw? Like, what happens when you get triggered? What is your response to being triggered? What triggers you, and what is your response to being triggered? Right? Being triggered. What fears do you have about relationships and family? You know, are you afraid that you won't be faithful? You're afraid that your partner won't be faithful? What fears are you carrying with you that you're going to move forward with, you know, in a long-term and committed relationship? These are things you need to know about yourself. You need to spend some time learning who you are developmentally. You need to take a look at the folks who raised you. You know, is my mother, you know, a habitual relationship, a habitual dater? You know, she go from man to man to man to man. If that's the case, then how did that impact me? How does it make me view, you know, fidelity? How does it make me view long-term relationships? You know, so there's a number of things you need to learn about yourself, you know, and even some of this stuff you can process and break down in therapy. You know, because it's important. It's going to impact how you move forward, not just with your spouse, but also with your children. You need to know these things about yourself. So that would be reason number 4 today, is you need some time to learn who you are developmentally. Right. And so the 5th reason is, and my final reason for this portion of it, is you need time to learn to love you. All right. You need time to learn to love you. You need to enjoy yourself. Explore who you are, appreciate who you are. You need to learn you. There are people out here in the so-called dating market looking for love who literally do not love themselves, you know, and it's not a joke. You can't really love someone if you don't love yourself, and you're not aware of that. You know, a lot of times people are not even aware of that. When you're young and you grow up a certain way, the thing that you want to do is just get out here in this world and find somebody that loves you besides your family members. Because your family members, it feels like your family members are obligated to love you, right? But you want to get out here in this world. You want to find someone who loves you and values you, right? But the question is, do you love you? Do you value you? Do you appreciate yourself? right? When you look at yourself in the mirror, do you appreciate who's looking back at you, right? Because when you don't love you, you cannot love someone else. It's just kind of like there's one of these stubborn rules that's just built into life that we just don't have any power over. It's almost like a law of physics or something. It's just there. You have to love you before you can love someone else. We search for love kind of backwards, right? I have children who are in high school and middle school, and they value themselves based on how their friends feel about them. And that's life. You can't get around that. It's not until you grow up and become an adult and you realize, you know what? No, I don't value me based on how others view me. I value me based on but it's hard not to do it that way. But trust me, it's important. No, not don't just trust me. Trust the data, right? Trust what life shows you. Trust life experience. You need to take time to learn to love you. And just as a personal story, I remember back when I was 30 years old, I ran into some old pictures, and I ran into a picture of myself at 5 years old, and I kind of like paused. I think I was like rushing out to play basketball or something like that, because I remember I had on my basketball attire, and I was standing by a mirror as I'm about to leave, and I look at this picture and I kind of paused for a minute. It's a picture of me when I was 5 years old, but it just made me stop and think. And I looked at this little boy and I'm saying, who loved this little boy? Who appreciated him, who gave him attention, who took the time with him to show him love and to, make him feel safe and, make him feel, desired. And that was a really big moment for me, because it just made me think about where we get our sense of value from, our self-esteem. Where do we get all that stuff from? We're supposed to get it from home. Our parents are supposed to help us navigate those things. Our parents are supposed to help us understand those things. And that's what nurturing is all about. Loving our children, hugging them and telling that they're valued, that they're important, that they're loved, they're appreciated, they're acknowledged, they're recognized. That's what parents are supposed to do. But we all didn't get that. So then you ask yourself, where do you get it from? And whereas with me, I felt like I got those things from my parents in different ways and in their own ways, but I still felt the sense of the gaps. There were enormous gaps there. And it made me review my life, just sit back and just review the story of my life. How did I get here? What were the steps? Where did I grow up? And how did I get to this point in my life today, and why? And one of the things that I realized then is that I had a lot of power. I had a lot of, a lot of the control in terms of how I loved myself was in my own hands. And I appreciated knowing that, because I can do a lot, and we all have that power to make sure that I feel loved by putting myself in the best situations, to be loved moving forward. Right. We all have the power to do that. We don't know that when we walk out of our homes, especially when we walk out of a dysfunctional home or a broken home. We walk out seeking love, not even aware of the fact that we're seeking love. We walk out seeking attention, not even aware of the fact that we're seeking that attention. Right. But we walk out seeking it, and then we find more brokenness because we're putting ourselves in the worst situations to find love. Right. So the wise thing to do is take a moment, step back from all of that contact, all of that interaction, all of the sex and all of the emotional stimulation and all of that stuff. Just take a moment to step back and have a brief moment with yourself, right? And learn to love you, right? This is what I appreciate about me, right? This is what I acknowledge about me. These are my talents. These are the things that I think are great about me, right? And these are the things that I can offer the world. Right. This is a part of me. And we can do those things. We have a lot of power. Right now. I don't want this podcast to be too long. I just wanted to give my next set of reasons as to why I think Black folks need to stop dating. Dating is literally destroying us as a people. right? Because we're seeking the right thing, right? Most of us, when it comes to dating, what we're truly seeking is long-term companionship, someone we can build a family with, and so on and so forth. But dating does not properly set that up. It doesn't. What dating sets up is disappointment, right? Emotional abandonment. That's what dating sets up. Unwanted children. And to me, that's the worst thing that comes out of it, is the unwanted children. That's what dating sets up, right? The paternity courts and family courts, DNA centers are packed with people. They're packed with people who have chosen dating as a way to try to find, that love, that eternal love, and so on. And it's led to disappointments. The reason why is because dating does not translate to those things. It doesn't translate well to marriage, right? And dating it doesn't translate to long-term relationships. Dating is not the best way to set up and start a family, right? And it's imperative that we as a people learn that and get away from that. That is where all of the anger is coming from when it comes to black men and black women and social media. It's coming from these horrible experiences that we're continuing to have with one another. We have all of these emotionally immature people, these spiritually underdeveloped people, right? These overly sexually stimulated people who are out here triggering one another, right? Attempting to be in relationships with one another. They're triggering one another, and then they jumping on social media and finding their trauma tribes. They're finding their trauma tribes. Like, this person is dealing with child support, so he finds his trauma tribe, and this person over here is dealing with child support, so she finds her trauma tribe, and everybody's out here telling their stories of how everything is going wrong, right? And then that ends up becoming the story of us. You have people who've built platforms you have females who've built platforms on how horrible black men are. You have men who built platforms on how horrible black women are, right? And we're in this space where we are internalizing this stuff, and we're listening to these messages, and we're internalizing this stuff, and we're believing that is what our life is, and that is what our world is. And that's not the case at all, right? We were put together by the Most High God for His reasons, right? And our togetherness is our power. And that's one of the things that, that's one of the things that our enemies know about us. And I don't want to go down that road too much without specifically addressing that, because it sounds too much like conspiracy theory until you unpack it all and you see it laying there right there before you, that it's not conspiracy theory. It's actually it's factual, right? The black family is considered a threat in this society, and I'm in the United States of America, right? So the black family is considered a threat in this society. So it's just a little bit more comforting for the state to have us be against one another, to be pitted against one another. So I am not above the belief that a lot of the vitriol that we see in social media is actually stimulated by outside forces like bots and things like that. I'm not, because it's just hard for me to believe. It's hard for me to believe. And maybe that's just the stubbornness of me being, Gen X, maybe that's the stubbornness, or maybe it's because of the experiences I've had with my people in the past. I remember family reunions, and I remember my aunties and uncles who were together and committed to one another. I remember those things. I remember what our community looked like before the crack epidemic, right? I had the benefit of seeing who we were and how we interacted before the crack epidemic. And why is that important? Is because we went through a traumatic change, right? From crack epidemic and mass incarceration to who we have become today. And it's very difficult for us to see and understand those changes, because if you're not old enough to have witnessed it, you can't really, you don't have a reference for it. You don't have a frame of reference for it. Right. But I'm old enough to have witnessed how the no man in the home rule impacted black families. I saw that. I saw how hip hop even had an impact on black families. I saw how, drug culture and gang culture evolved into what it became. And it also impacted black families, and mass incarceration impacted black families. Right. So some of that stuff is internalized, but some of it is external. Right. But nevertheless, I kind of got a sense of how we got here. And I do know that for people who view us as a threat or competition, it's more beneficial for them, for us to be pitted against one another the way we are, right? It's amazing to me that content on social media platforms that seem to uphold and support the Black family gets suppressed. But any content that has any kind of negative ideation in it about Black relationships, it goes viral. Like, it goes viral immediately. Every morning I wake up and I go on IG or whatever platform I go on, I see all of this negative things that happen. Like, some Black man and killed a Black woman, some Black woman and killed a Black man, and some Black man or woman and killed Black children. All that stuff is going viral, right? And all of these negative conversations and comments, things about excuse me, things about, these are the restaurants you don't take me to if I'm dating. I'm sorry. Things like, these are the restaurants you cannot take me to if you're dating me, or stories about the passport bros, just all of the stuff that is going on, in the culture right now. That's not the story of us, that's how we got here. But we have to get through this. This is the reason why I called this podcast Through the Fire, because that's really what the fire is. It's all of these negative ideas, that is trying to assert this narrative that Black love is a non-existent thing. I truly believe in Black love, and I believe that Black love is more powerful than the moment we're having right now. And I believe we will overcome this the way we've overcome every difficulty and other challenges in the past. Right. But what we must understand today is that this is the biggest challenge that we are facing in this generation. This is the biggest challenge. And every generation stood up to the challenge that it had. Right. The folks who came up out of slavery and the post-slavery period, Reconstruction, every generation stood up to the challenge of their era, of their times, the civil rights generation, the Black Lives Matter generation, or whatever that generation. But this is the biggest challenge that this generation face right now. This is a time for us to really deal with Black love, because it's against the ropes. And we just need to address and deal with it. All right. So I hope this podcast has been a blessing to you. I hope it's been an eye opener for some. If it has, please like and follow, comment, leave comments in the comment section, because it'll help me, with my content going forward. And share, subscribe. I'm not even sure what platform you're viewing this on. Most likely YouTube, maybe IG in the future. But just follow the content, comment, hit that bell icon, and scroll over to all so you can get all of the content as I post. And like I said before, I don't think I'm going to be doing this daily. It's not going to be easy to do it daily, but I'm going to do it as often as I can. And then I'm going to have to put myself on a schedule, because that's what's recommended, is that I upload maybe once a week. So I may have to go to a once a week kind of schedule with this. I want to start interviewing people. So I'm going to start looking at my Rolodex and seeing who I have near me that I can start interviewing, because that's going to be a part of it. And eventually I'm going to show my face. Eventually it's going to evolve into that. I just need to have the right, hookup and setup and so on to do that part of it. But anyway, stay with me, build with me. This is episode 2. And I hope you're here with me, episode 100 and episode 1000 and so on. All right. Peace and blessings to you wherever you are. Much love.